So buckle in, have a seat, and let's get into it. Shalom, y'all. I'm back. And I'm back with what might be my favorite episode to record to date. Um, I'm here with you to talk everything festivals, everything music festival, I should say. So today's episode is Festive AF. And if you know me, you know that I live for a music festival. I live for those hot summer days where you're carefree and there's maybe a little bit of sand in your mouth, but you're a little bit drunk, a little bit hazy, and all of your favorite music is happening and like a ton of music that you've never heard of before, but you're like, you know what? I'm a free spirit. I'm a hippie. I may or may not have shoes on right now, and I'm going to go experience something new, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Yes, I am talking about music festivals. And, I have to say, um, between being a festival goer and being someone playing a music festival, I really don't think that there's a music festival that I've met that I didn't like. So I'd like you to gather around, grab your glow sticks, your totems, um, maybe an alcoholic beverage if that's something that you partake in, and listen up. I'm going to share some stories, one of which would be my first ever experience going to a major music festival. I'll talk about the first time I played a major music festival. I'll talk about some of the do's and don'ts. Um, and you know, I'm gonna talk a lot about it because I know a lot about it, and I've been going to major music festivals for probably 6 years now. And I might be one of those people in their late 40s, early 50s who are still showing up and like elbowing their way to the front of a crowd of 100,000 people to make sure that they can see the headliner. Like, that's probably going to be me. So, anyway, get ready. This is going to be fun, guys. Okay, so for this one today, I don't really have like a required reading list or song list, but I'm going to give you some quick advice as it pertains to lists. So, when you are getting ready to go to a music festival, I think one of the things that I learned to be really helpful is when I actually look at the lineup and rather than just get excited about the headliners, I tend to like to do quick deep dives, if that's such a thing, but do quick dives into some of the like the baby acts, baby bands, as some people call them, um, because you can discover like really cool art. Especially at festivals like Bonnaroo, where they have like a lineup of a couple hundred bands over the course of 3 days. There's a lot of music that is programmed that if you're not paying attention, you can miss it. So like for instance, I did a deep dive probably 6 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that. I can't remember the date, but um I saw SZA on the lineup. And I was like, what's that? It's like the RZA. Um, who is it? So I looked this person up, and it's SZA. And my goodness, I was just enamored by this young woman who was singing about decapitating aliens and love all at once. And I was like, I have to make it a priority to see this person perform. She wasn't even like listed in a like medium font size on the lineup. She was like one of the tiny print names that you got to really squint to see. And also at the time, and even to this day, like, I'm not gonna lie, when I look on a lineup, part of why I comb through the lineups is to see, like, okay, but where's the black stuff? Because traditionally speaking, these major festivals had majorly lacked in like programming content that wasn't cishet white stuff. You know, you might get a Kanye West on your lineup because he's, one of the biggest artists um, in all of the industry. So of course they're going to want to get Kanye because everyone wants him there, or the Kanyes of the world. So yeah, when SZA was on the lineup, I saw her. I was front row for her and her band, and it was in a tent, like a pretty one of the smaller tents. I don't know if it was this tent or that tent, but it was a smaller tent, and I think it was like it was like a sunset show. But I was blown away. She came out in like a tank top and pajama pants, and she was like the most feminine thug I had ever seen, and so beautiful. And like, again, her music, the content, the emotion, all of it. It was a beautiful thing to see. So, yeah, if I were to tell you what to do with these, oh, another band that I had seen at a festival before, maybe not before they broke, but just they weren't a headliner, was Subtract. I want to say it's SBTRKT is what you would see. And again, I saw it and I was like, well, never heard of them. They seem cool. Started listening to their music, saw and listened to some of their collabs with like Sampha, and again, fell in love. And when I saw their show, they too were playing in one of the tents, and it was really neat. I got to be pretty close up front, and it was just like two guys on stage wearing masks, and they had a really great light show that they did. So um, I was in love with that too. And so, yeah, go for it. Do the deep dive. Don't just like schedule on your list of things that you have to see. Don't just schedule the headliners. Please look at the smaller acts because you never know who you're going to see. And I'll talk a little bit more about that the further we dive into it. Um, and some of my favorite moments that came from those just happenstance sets. And then the other kind of list that I think you should make um, would be, I guess, pertaining to that, like make sure that when you are planning your days, plan them before you're drunk or high. Now, granted, I think when you're going to festivals, especially if you decide to camp, it's always a good idea to just have a free spirit and kind of go with the flow because things can change at any time, whether your mood, your sobriety, or even just like, you know, who you're hanging with. But if there are certain things that are really important to you, like if there are certain bands or certain events that are really important to you, like write them down and make a list in your phone, or better yet, write it down on physical paper, because the likelihood that your phone will stay charged the whole time is pretty slim, especially if you're camping. Um, it's bound to happen that your phone's going to die and you're not going to know what's going on. So it's always good to just have a backup. So though that's probably like my required reading or like list that you should just pay attention to as you're heading into the festival world. All right, man. Again, I am so pumped to be doing this episode, and it's highly likely that after doing this and I release this, I'll listen back to it and realize there's so many other moments and things that I want to share. So just be prepared for potentially a part two, three, four, five, six on this subject. Excuse me. Um, so I think I should start by giving you a rundown of what my very first major music festival going experience was. This was back when I worked at my old agency day job. And one of the perks, as much as I talked about all the negative things, there were a lot of perks that came from having a job like that. And one was that you typically get to partake in VIP, like artist access to most major music festivals. Um, and even within that access, of course, then there is a hierarchy of how much access you get. But, at the time, I didn't know that, and also didn't know that there is a distinction between, like, normal VIP that, like, the average concert goer could purchase, and artist, hang, VIP, all that stuff. I didn't know. It was my second year working there, and while I had people that I spoke to within the office, looking back, I realized I basically, like, didn't have any friends there. And, it was like fake friends, you know? I recognize that now, especially. And so when it came time to decide who was riding with who, if they were riding with anyone at all or whatever, I ended up getting my own car pass. But nobody wanted to ride with me. And nobody offered to have me ride with them. So I just kind of resigned myself to thinking like, okay, well, I'm gonna go down to Manchester to Bonnaroo by myself, but I'll run into everyone there. They're telling me where they're gonna be and where their camping site is and all that. So I'll find them and it'll be fine. That same weekend, by the way, my poor little car broke down, I think the Thursday of Bonnaroo. Maybe it was the Friday of Bonnaroo. I think it was the Thursday. My car broke down and I went through a whole thing with that, but I was able to get it fixed. And so as much as that maybe seems like a bad omen, I didn't take it as that. So I said, you know what? Cool, my car works. I'm going to Bonnaroo. So I drive down from Nashville to Manchester, and uh, at the time, I was still pretty young and naive and a doe-eyed Minnesota nice girl. That um, even though I lived in Boston and experienced some things, that was still a very controlled environment. So um, I was still a bit naive, but I had told myself, okay, well, what you're going to do is you're going to make a pitcher of like jungle juice to share with your friends. Like, it's always nice to bring something to a party. So I brought like a ton of liquor, just like so much liquor, packed it away, drove up. And one of the cool things about having like an artist parking is that there's a completely different parking lot. Um, than like GA parking. And any of you listening, if you have gone to Bonnaroo or some of the other major festivals, GA parking at a major festival is kind of like trying to find your car um, in like the Disney World parking lot after taking like a couple shots before having a phone that might be able to tell you where it was. Like, it's a sea of cars. I mean, there's like what, 50,000 people, 100,000 people that go to any of these major festivals at any given time, and most of them drive. Um, so it was quite a blessing to be able to park in a separate lot that maybe only had a few hundred cars. So I pull up and I am walking around. I get to the back lot, and it's really nice because that parking area is essentially like right behind all the major stages and what have you. And so I'm into the festival pretty quickly. But back then, cell towers weren't really abundant down in Manchester. And so all the cell towers were overloaded. Probably I would have to say within a good 15 miles of the city center of Manchester. But I didn't know. So I get there and I'm texting all of my work colleagues, "Hey guys, I'm here. I want to find you guys. Let's hang." And I'm not getting a response. And I'm like, "Oh shoot. Okay. Well, they told me their car and everything, everybody's kind of camped out in the same area in VIP together. So I'll just go to VIP." And I walk right past the artist camping, which is spoiler alert where they were. Walk right past it and into what is called Centeroo. Now, Centeroo is literally what it sounds like. It's the center of Bonnaroo. It's where everyone converges. It's directly in the middle of all the stages and tents. And Bonnaroo um, is kind of confusing if you've never gone and you didn't do any research prior to showing up, and you've never been in a sea of 50 to 100,000 people as an introvert with anxiety. And so I I walk in the center of all these people, and all the stages and tents are titled this stage, that stage, which stage, what stage, or this tent, that tent, which stage, what stage, who stage. So asking people, hey, do you know where so and so is performing? Because I didn't have any service. And so I couldn't even access the app to see what the lineup was. And I didn't have a paper lineup or anything like that. Um, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, they're at that stage." And I just kind of thought everyone was being like an asshole and like just not helping me because I like must have seemed so green. And so I follow the crowd, and as I'm doing this, it's like 95 degrees out. It was a really hot Bonnaroo that year. And I'm carrying my pitcher of jungle juice that I proceed to start drinking out of. I don't even think I really had any breakfast that day because I figured I would eat at the festival. So I start nervous drinking. And I'm really not a person that does that in any other circumstance. But again, like until you're in a sea of thousands of people alone, you don't know what you're going to do, especially if you're not prepared for it. And so I'm drinking out of this pitcher. I'm following the crowd. I'm kind of asking people, hey, where's VIP? Where's VIP? Again, like I said, VIP for general admission VIP is a very different area. In fact, it's like on the other side of Bonnaroo. I don't know how many miles across or how many acres the Bonnaroo farm is. Which let me pause and kind of set the scene for that too. Bonnaroo happens on a farm in a small town between Nashville and Chattanooga called Manchester. And on this farm, once you've got thousands and thousands of people there, they're walking around, and the ground is mostly covered in dirt. So you've got dirt and dust kicking up in the air at all times, or a lot of times. Um, and it there's not a ton of shade. Like you can find a tree to sit under, or like you can go into any of the buildings that they've kind of erected to escape the sun and all of that. And they've got like a water park area, and then they've got what's called food truck alley, where the food trucks. It's exactly what it sounds like. Food truck alley, where it's just all food trucks. And then, of course, around most of like the major stages and stuff, you've got like uh, food row where you've got like your pizza place, you've got the Creole stand, which is still to this day my favorite spot to hit to get fried shrimp or po' boy or, whatever, just like easy walking around festival food. There is a bar everywhere, and it's pretty expensive to drink from the bar stands. A lot of times, I want to say like a small Dixie cup of liquor will probably run you about $13 to $15, and for like a double, you're looking around 23. So like I said, pretty expensive to drink that way. Um, so okay, so back to where we were. So I'm in the crowd and I'm trying to find VIP, asking people, and people end up pointing me to VIP. Except my wristband was not for VIP, it was for artist. And so when I walk up to the gate to like scan my wristband, it doesn't work. And so then I'm like, what the hell? Like I know I'm here VIP. Why can't I get in here? And so somehow I, I'm at this point I'm fairly drunk. And so I revert to my video game knowledge of Assassin's Creed. And what I did was I walked away for a few minutes, and then I saw a group of people, all of whom had wristbands for VIP. And I just kind of tagged along, like kind of on the side, and I kept my head down, and I just walked through VIP with them. And then I was like, all right, cool. I made it over here. I don't know what's going on with my wristband, but I'm here now. It's fine. All right, time to look for uh, my coworker's Chrysler Sebring convertible. I can't miss it. I saw the picture of where she said she parked it. I just got to find her car. So I start aimlessly wandering, and this creepy old man who was, in fact, one of those people in their late 40s, maybe early 50s, that still goes to Bonnaroo, and except he's like creepy. But of course, again, like I said, I was a doe-eyed Minnesota nice girl who was quite drunk at that point. And so he saw me wandering and said, "Hey, you look lost. Do you need some help?" And so I said, "Yeah, I can't find my friends and I can't get in touch with anybody and this just sucks. Oh, God." He was like, "Well, I'll help you." Um and so we walk around a bit, can't find anybody, and then he's like, "Well, Tedeschi trucks, they're playing Tedeschi trucks, Tedeschi trucks. It's Tedeschi." I always get this wrong because, side note, um, in Boston, there are all of there, or at least there used to be, like corner stores. And so there was always a Store 24, but then there was also Tedeschi Mart. And we all called it Tedeschi Mart. Nobody said Tedeschi Mart. It was always Tedeschi Mart, which is ironic because we were a music school. So the idea that all of these musicians were calling it Tedeschi Mart and not Tedeschi Mart is like awkward to me. But anyway, here we are. They were playing a set, and so the guy was like, "Let's go watch them." And I was like, "Okay, maybe I'll run into them." And so, again, getting increasingly more drunk. I did have the good sense to walk away from him for a moment and get some pizza, but he was on me like white on rice. And so when I grabbed my pizza, I thought I lost him. Like, I wasn't trying to lose him, but I wasn't necessarily trying to like hang with him. And he found me and he was like, "Let's watch the show." And so we watched the show, and then it's over. And I was like, "Okay, can you get me back into VIP? Because I really do need to find my friends." So he takes me back to VIP, and I just start getting a really bad headache. And uh, I need to sit down. He's like, "Well, I can take you to my campsite. I can give you some water." So I follow him back to his like little camp hangout that he and some of his friends kind of constructed. And he hands me a water bottle, and luckily, thankfully, I can stop you right there. I know where you think I'm going with this. It was completely sealed. So he wasn't giving me something that was laced. So I start chugging this water and I sit down. It gets creepy though, because then suddenly I feel a pair of hands on my shoulders start to massage me. And something about that sobered me up. Between that, the water, and the pizza, I started to sober up really quick. And I got up and I was like, "Dude, I gotta go. This is creepy." And I proceeded to run from VIP through Centeroo, thousands of people, full on sprint. It had to be a good 2 miles, 2 to 3 miles actually, because I ran from VIP through Centeroo, backstage, through, back through the parking lot and to my car. Got in my car and drove back to Nashville. Walked into my house, took my clothes off, and got in the bathtub. Threw up in the bathtub, cried, and sat there for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Made a peanut butter and jelly. And then as I'm eating my peanut butter and jelly, I realize, you know what? Screw that dude. He's not going to ruin my first Bonnaroo. And you know what? No new friends. Like, knew deep down inside, like, the people that I was so quick to call friends were not as quick to call me a friend, um, and mean it. Because I realized, like, how am I not finding anybody? If they were my friends and they knew that I was having car trouble, but I was able to get my car fixed and come to Bonnaroo, why wouldn't any of them be concerned that they hadn't yet found me if they were my friend? Like, if I had a friend that had never been to Bonnaroo and they told me, "Hey, I'm going to drive myself, I'm going to be there around this time," I would have made an effort to say, "Okay, well, I'm going to hang back and I'm going to meet you at the entrance so you know where you're going." Nobody did that. And I don't know, I was naive and expected that somebody would want to find me maybe. Um so I said, "You know what? You're a badass bitch and you don't take no shit. You're going back." And so I hydrated, brought some tall bottles of water with me, and I got back in my car and I drove back down to Manchester. Got an even better parking spot that was closer to everything. And then all of a sudden I started running into people who were my actual friends that I didn't know they were going to Bonnaroo, and ended up having the time of my life. I think I got back to Bonnaroo around 6:30 or 7 o'clock. The sun had actually, it was probably a little bit later than that because it was the summer at that point and the sun had already gone down. But I got back in time for like some of the headliners, and I ran into some people that I to this day love dearly and had such a great time. In fact, we helped um, somebody find their cell phone. Some people know me as the finder of lost things. Now, granted, I lose my things all the time. But if you are around me and you say, "Oh my God, Amber, I can't find this needle in a haystack that I desperately need," give me about 3 minutes and I'll probably find it. It is one of my superpowers. Um, and yeah, so I found someone's cell phone and they gave me $50 for doing it. So I made money. And then yeah, so once I had that experience and I started walking around Bonnaroo and I saw how things worked and understood what kind of access I had and where, it was like I had the keys to the music festival kingdom. I was able to get side stage for almost every show I wanted to get on or like go see. Um and if it wasn't side stage, I was able to get like front row for a lot of different things or pretty close. Um, and towards the end of the first night that I went, all of a sudden I started running into the people that I thought I was going there to hang out with. And they were like, "Oh my God, Amber, you made it. Hi. Wow. Well, do you like want to come back to our campground for a drink or whatever?" I guess. And so I still went back just to like be social because back then, when I was working that day job, part of the job is like you do have to be a good hang and like you gotta at least socialize and make yourself seen for a moment, whatever. So I went back, but it just didn't feel good. Like I didn't feel like I was actually welcome. I was just being tolerated. It's like I can't remember exactly how someone said it recently, but it was the idea of like you're invited but not welcome. That's how I felt when I ran into those people. And so I just, I had a drink. I said hi. I probably stayed there for maybe 10 minutes. And then I said, "Hey, I'm gonna head out, but good to see you." And I went home. And then woke up and kind of did it all again. But I was a lot wiser the second day because I realized, okay, you actually do need to be in control of yourself as much as you can. You need to be aware of your surroundings, hashtag shit my mom says. And you can have the time of your life or the worst time of your life. Pick one. And so, later I'll talk to you and tell you about like some of the do's and don'ts that will help you have the time of your life. But just know I learned so much from that first day. It was like a baptism by fire scenario. So that was my faith, like my very first time going to a major music festival. And then after that I had the bug. I was like, this is lit. This is really cool. I'm randomly running into Andra Day, just randomly walking on the path backstage, or Kendrick Lamar is hanging out back here at the same bar that I am. And again, when you're in Nashville, you learn the art of acting like you're supposed to be in the room. So like if you see Kendrick Lamar, if you maybe you have like an important job in the industry, okay, it would make sense for you if it makes sense. Like you'll know if it makes sense, but for you to maybe go up to an artist like that and say hi and say, "Oh, I work at this agency and I manage these clients and really respect what you do," and try and just have a dialogue perhaps. But I was on the bottom of that totem pole. So it was definitely a thing of, "Oh my God, I'm starstruck, but I can't let anybody know." um, and that's kind of what it's like when you go back there. I mean, you have direct access to people. And to that point, I think that is why VIP is separate from the artist hang, because if it wasn't, it would it could be a shit show. I mean, I have been to a couple major festivals where they are one and the same, and it is kind of a shit show, and then the artists don't actually like to hang out, and so they kind of keep to their tour bus or whatever, their trailer, if they have a trailer while they're getting ready. Like it's just not as much a kind of like free flowing, everyone's here and everyone's having fun and everyone's keeping to themselves until otherwise necessary. And from that bug of like being at these music festivals, at the time I was starting to gain more momentum musically with different bands in town. And there was one band that I spent a lot, if not most of my time with, which was Luthi. Some of you listening to this know me from that band. I sang backgrounds, sang lead a couple times here and there, but did that and played saxophone, and like I brought my own hype to the sauce to add to the collective sauce that we had. And like that was a really fun band musically to be part of. It really was. It's some parts of me still wish that the version that we started to become still exists. I like sometimes I wish for that, but I also am really proud of the direction that Christian Luthi is taking with that music now, and I just can't wait to see what he does with it. But that being said, we were gaining momentum as a crew, as he would say, and we were opening for Moon Taxi. Moon Taxi was being really cool and bringing me out on shows and all of this stuff as well. And also, we're now up to 2018, and that year they added a a building to the general admission campground area called the Ville, where they would, it was, I think it was sponsored by the Houston station folks. Um, but they were programming all local Nashville artists that deserved to play Bonnaroo, but maybe they missed the main lineup. So Luthi got an offer for that, and so we played that. But I almost didn't go because at this time, it was like June of 2018. And as some of you know, I had just been diagnosed with Crohn's disease, but had not yet found like a treatment plan. So I was like so sick. Like the day before, I was having a flare where I couldn't stop vomiting. The next day, I woke up and I was delirious and I had a fever and I was still vomiting. But that was the day that Luthi was supposed to play Bonnaroo. And I had until, I guess, 6 p.m. roughly before I needed to be down there. And my mom and dad, they were very worried. So my dad flew down to Nashville because I didn't want to let them know how sick I felt. But something told them that I was really sick. And so he flew down under the guise of, "Hey, I'm going to fix your dishwasher." And so when he shows up, I'm on my front porch like curled up in a ball just trying to get warm because I had the chills so bad that it was like unbearable to be in my house even though the AC wasn't even on. And but I was like loaded up on muscle relaxers, um Percocet, and what else did they have me on? Antibiotics, stuff like that. So where I was like starting to feel like, okay, I can push through this. I've pushed through this kind of thing all year. I can do it. And so when my dad got there, I was like, well, okay, while you're fixing this, I'm going to take a nap on the couch. And if I wake up and I feel like I'm going to die, then I won't play. But if I feel okay, I'm going to go down to Bonnaroo. And so when I woke up, I don't know, maybe it was a psychological thing because I definitely was not okay. I just want to be clear. I definitely was not okay. But sometimes mind over matter, willpower can sometimes like stave off something for a minute, I guess. Because when I woke up, I actually felt okay. I don't know. I felt okay. And my dad looked at me and he was like, okay, just, I don't know. But he knew I wasn't he wouldn't be able to stop me from going, I think. So I said bye, thank you, and I drove down to Manchester and I met up with the guys. Um, and we played a set in this barn and it was like so much fun. It was literally the smallest stage of all the stages in like on the farm, right? But I didn't care. I was over the moon excited to be able to say that I was playing on the Bonnaroo campgrounds. And we did it, and it was a really, really great show. And then um, I stayed for a few shows that weekend, but I decided to leave and go home so I could rest. And that same year, Moon Taxi was headlining, like they were like second to close the whole festival, and they had asked me to play with them on it again, over the moon. So now I'm going from playing like maybe the smallest stage at the festival to the largest stage. It was, I want to say it was the Who stage. Now, what was so special, I mean, I'm going to get into what it was like playing in front of basically the entire Bonnaroo audience. But the year before that, I was standing in front of the Who stage with Christian Luthi and with his girlfriend at the time and a couple people I used to work with. And I don't even remember what show we were watching. All I know is I grabbed them all and I looked at them dead in their eyes and I said, I, Amber Woodhouse, am going to play this music festival next year. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. It was before I quit my job. It was before I knew I would be quitting my job. But something in me said, I am going to play this festival. And so when you fast forward to me waiting side stage with my saxophone at the Who stage, same stage that I stood in front of the year before and said, I'm going to play, it was so surreal to know that I literally spoke it out to God, to the universe, to uh, the Bonnaroo collective energy that I would be playing. And I could never have imagined that not only would I be playing it, but I'd be playing it in front of, playing it on that very stage that I spoke it and willed it to happen, if you will. Um, I could never have imagined that. So, as a pause, I'd like to say if you dream it and you build it, it will come. It will. Um, so I'm sitting there, I'm waiting, and Um, Too High is the song that I jumped in on for that set. And it was so cool because I didn't tell a ton of people that I was going to be doing it, but a lot of my friends were watching, and all of a sudden they hear, "Please welcome Miss Amber to the stage." And they see me come out, and I'm like on jumbotrons in front of like what 50,000 people, something like that. Um, and oh my god, like I wasn't nervous. I was excited. I was excited to be playing with people that um, had been so kind to me. Excited to be playing on a song that I had played a bunch of times. So I was like, okay, well, I can't mess this up. And like looking out at a sea of 50,000 people is very much like after the first few thousand, it's kind of a blur. You don't see specifics like facial expressions. It's just kind of like a sea of body, and it's more about the collective energy of the whole blob versus like, did that one person like what I did? Did they? I don't know. Like it's like the last thing you're thinking about, actually, at least for me. Um, and so we performed, and um, I wouldn't trade that moment for the world. It was beautiful, and I'm so grateful to the guys for thinking of me to bring me out with them on that because I needed that. Um, So yeah, that was the first time I had played any major music festival. Um, well, I don't know if that was the first time because I can't remember if Hangout Festival came before Bonnaroo. But in that same year, Luthi ended up opening Hangout Festival. We were on like again, we were on the BMI stage, and BMI was really and is really good at programming smaller bands and giving them opportunities on their stages at these major festivals. And so Luthi, I want to say, was like the second or third band at all to play Hangout that year. And what was really special about the BMI stage was that it was like pretty close to the entrance. So anyone coming into the festival pretty much had to at least hear us, if not be intrigued and come watch. Um, and what was interesting for me was that okay, so Hangout Festival is a cool festival because it's in Gulf Shores, Alabama, on the beach. So it's like beachy as hell, beachy AF, in fact. And it was hot out. But yeah, it was weird because that was the first time that my former work colleagues had really seen me in a scenario where now they had to be nice to me because now I'm an artist and on the lineup, and like there potentially could have been something to gain, perhaps. I don't know, or maybe not. But either way, the way they acted towards me and what I was doing musically was very different than how they would when we were in Nashville. I think maybe seeing me out of town in that context meant something different to them, or I don't know. But it was weird, and it kind of gave me anxiety because there were people that were so smiley and like so complimentary of me, but like, and also at the time, like I said, I was sick. And so I had been perpetually losing weight and didn't know why and didn't have a way to stop it. So I was like really slim also at that point, and they all, of course, were commenting on my physique and, um, oh, you look so good. You look so healthy and all this. And I'm just sitting to myself saying, like, if you only knew that I want to go rip out my intestines, nave de Shakti style, and just like, you know, get some new ones. If you only knew. But yeah, so we performed and did that. I was wearing a swimsuit and a pair of green Free People leather pants. And I had this tribal style cuz like what I told myself was, okay, like at this point I was kind of a veteran of like going to major festivals, but I was still new at playing them. But I like to have motifs every year of what I'm going to wear. So that year it was Wakanda Forever. So every day of day of the festival, I would dress in a different color that represented like the border tribe or the river tribe, um, and stuff like that. So I was looking real cool. I really was. And yeah, it was just weird running into them. And so like maybe the second to last day at the festival, I um I only wore a swimsuit. Like that's all I had on was a swimsuit. And I don't think I had more than half of a small drink. I don't even think I had that much, but I was on steroids and muscle relaxers at the time just to feel sort of normal. And what I didn't know was that steroids will dehydrate you faster than you can ever know. And once again, I'm on a beach and it's sunny and there's definitely no shade at that festival. And we're walking through, we're me, Christian and his girlfriend at the time, we were on our way to go see another Nashville local artist, Arlamar. Which go check out Arlamar's music when you have time because it's really cool. Um, and there was a moment where I felt like I was going deaf, but it seemed normal. I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I can't hear right now." Anyway, continue to walk. Um, I noticed my lips were kind of dry, but that seemed normal. And then I remember my head kind of hurting a little bit, and then I hear ringing. And then all of a sudden, I look at Christian and his girlfriend, and I go, I need help. I tried to say, I need help. I don't even think I got the whole phrase out, and then I black out. And I vaguely remember him catching me with like his shin. because I fell so fast. And I came to for a split second to them handing me water to try and drink it. But I keep passing out. And then I overhear him and his girlfriend arguing. He's like, "She just needs water, man. Like, she probably just like a little drunk and like needs some water." And his girlfriend, who had the good sense to say, "No, she's passing out from heat stroke. Go get the paramedics." And the paramedics come and they're kind of splashing water at me. I wake up a little bit, but I feel so wobbly. And they're like, "Well, miss, can you walk?" And so I'm like, "I'll try." But every time I tried to walk or take a step, I blacked out. And so they grabbed me. And what I remember to be four very hot, muscly guys. Now, granted, I was delirious AF, so who knows if that was real, but I do know four muscly guys pick me up and run with me through this crowd, through the food truck alley, because almost every major festival has a food truck alley. They run me through that and get me on a golf cart, and they're still kind of splashing water at me to try and cool me down and all that stuff. And at some point, I come to, I think my eyes are open, but I'm blind. I can't see. All I can see is darkness and maybe like red outlines of people, but I couldn't see anything else. And so now I'm like trying to tell them, "I'm blind, I'm blind." Now, hindsight, I'm looking back, I'm like, I don't even know if they could hear me saying I'm blind. Like, that has to be the scariest part of like heat stroke is you are trying to communicate with the people around you, but you can't talk. You can't, or you're not coherent. And so they get me to the medic tent and they get me on a bed and they start, running IVs. I remember getting a rush of extremely cold air because they were cranking the AC in there, thankfully. And I start to kind of come to, but I'm still very delirious. And I think they were like trying to figure out what drugs I had taken or if I had been roofied or something. And I was just simply trying to tell them I have Crohn's disease and I'm on steroids. I must be dehydrated and I just can't really get it out. And so, for what was probably 45 minutes to an hour, I'm laying there on this bed just trying to like gain, full consciousness and like autonomy. And the person to the left of me is projectile vomiting upwards like a geyser. And she was on drugs, like a lot of them. And her friend, every time the paramedic left, was like trying to be like, "Girl, you got to get it together because we're going to go to jail." Um, because they did have cops kind of like hanging nearby. And then the guy to the right of me was trying to fight the paramedics. And then he starts convulsing. And then he too starts vomiting upwards. It was hell. You know, I jokingly for the longest time used to call the medic tent the bad trip tent, and now I know that that is absolutely an accurate assessment of what that place is. um but eventually I start to come to, and as I'm able to start forming real sentences, all of the nurses there just keep asking me, "So what did you take? So what did you take?" And I'm like, I took prednisone." And then they were just like, "Yeah, but what else? Yeah, but what else?" And one doctor or nurse, I'm not really sure, but he overheard what I was saying and came over and he said, "You're on prednisone?" And I was like, "Yes, I have Crohn's disease." And then he got them to back off. And so he was like, "Yeah, she just needs a lot of water." Um, and so I think I took four IV bags before I was able to walk without being dizzy. And so, yeah, like that was one of the scariest moments of my life, and it happened at a music festival. But then the very next day, I was better. I came to, and I can rally with the best of them. And um, we had a really really great time. And that next day, Kendrick Lamar was the headliner, and he this was probably one of those moments that goes down in like music festival history. So he had a part of his show where he was bringing up artists, or I'm sorry, he was bringing up fans on the stage to rap alongside of with him. Which, like, how cool would that be? Like, for me, the equivalent of that would be if Beyonce pulled me out of the crowd. and handed me a microphone and told me to take a verse of like Crazy in Love. Like, oh my God. What? Not only, well, for me, I'd be like, what an opportunity. But like, as a super fan, I'm sure someone would be like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Well, I could die now. Um, and so there was this guy who was named Rajit. He got up. Uh, this black kid got up there, and maybe somebody else also got up there. And oh, uh, then we'll just call her Hangout Becky gets called on stage. And now, granted, I'm a big fan of Kendrick Lamar in the sense of like, in general, I really like what he does. But I'm not going to lie and say that outside of his hits, I know all of his cuts. So, but that being said, he asked her to do a song with him. And it was one of his songs where he was like dropping in bombs every like 2 seconds within the first 20 seconds. And she just starts dropping the N bombs, like no censor, nothing, just all of the N bombs. And there was like kind of an audible gasp from the entire crowd of, oh no. And Kendrick stops the band and looks at her and goes, girl, even Rajit knew, or Pradeep, I think was his name, even Pradeep knew to censor himself and you're not. And she was like so caught up in the moment of like, oh my God, I'm on stage with Kendrick Lamar and I love every single thing he does and I know every single word. And suddenly her brain catches up with the moment and looks around and you can see her face starting to get red and her eyes well up with tears. And she she's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And he's like, it's okay, girl, we'll run it back. We'll do it again. And so they start the song again, and she's kind of trying to get through it, but she's also fighting back all the tears. And she can't do it, and he just stops the song, and they just get her off stage and move on. And I'm sitting here in the artist VIP hot tub watching this go down with three other white people, and they didn't really understand why what she did. Well, one of them understood, and the other two didn't understand why what she did was like not okay. Like it was a big party foul. And then I'm having to sit and explain this is why it's not okay that she said it. This is why she needed to censor herself. And no, just because the music uses the word does not negate the historical and societal and cultural context that and weight that goes behind that word, and why it's okay that Kendrick can write and use it in his word in his lyrics, and why it's okay for you to listen to them, but in mixed company, you better be censoring yourself because if you're not, there's um, you know, there's consequences to your actions. That experience was an awkward one. Like, this was before, this is 2018, so this is before um, more white people were like willing to listen to what black people had to say about anything. Um, and so, I don't know. It made headlines. Like, you can go back and Google this when you're done listening and read more about it. But being there in that moment, my God, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the look on her face and the look on everyone else's faces. Oof. But yeah, uh the last story I'll tell, this is going to be kind of a long episode, and I do apologize for those of you that like the, just under an hour episodes, but this is a special one for me. Festivals are a special time. It's like summer camp in a way. But like adult summer camp. And there's like sex, drugs, and rock and roll involved. Whatever. Um, the last kind of story I'll tell, which is kind of like a source of inspiration, would I mean, I've got so many other stories. Again, I told you I'll probably do some other episodes, maybe if you guys like this podcast and we grow and it comes out for years to come, perhaps it can be like a yearly episode that I do. TBD. It's going to be really up to you guys. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to the Festival King, Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper and his team are brilliant. I know he's mostly self contained, especially back at that time. I don't think he had a label deal. I want to say part of what made him so special was that he pretty much did everything on his own. He had an assistant slash manager, but beyond that, it was all him. And at the time, certainly I want to say pre 2017. So between the years of like 2013 and 2016, most of the time, Chance wasn't really on any of these major festival lineups. And if he was maybe kind of like one of the mid grade acts, or he was like one of the smaller acts where you had to squint, kind of like SZA, like had to squint to see him. But Chance was a master at networking and calling in favors and stuff like that. And so what he did was, even if he wasn't on the lineup, he made sure he was at these shows, and he found his way on stage with any and everyone who'd have him. And it was brilliant because essentially he could play these festivals without ever really being on a lineup, and it made it to where me, like people like me in the audience, I'm watching him, I'm like, oh my god, like he gives such a great live show every time. Like, I saw him here, I saw him there, he's bouncing around. How is it that I'm seeing him at like five different stages in one night? Like, he treated Bonnaroo, especially, he's like the king of Bonnaroo, is what he it was a self-proclaimed title, but I'll let him have that. He is and was the king of Bonnaroo. And I think it's really important for any of you artists and young folks listening out there, who have aspirations to like play festivals and things like that. Like, of course, Chance, he is a special case in the sense of like he was able to jump on stage with other bands and other artists, as a guest, and they let him out and do that. I don't recommend you showing up to a festival and then like worming your way onto a stage not knowing the people on the stage. Like, don't do that. But if you have an opportunity to do it, like, go for it. Um like, I don't know. I just admired him so much, and I was so inspired by that. And so um uh, I I told myself one day, I was like, I want to be the queen of Bonnaroo. Like, I want to do that. So for me, my miniature version of that was 2018 when I played two stages there. Um but yeah, it was the coolest thing to see. And he was doing that himself. And like, anything is possible at Bonnaroo. It's a magical place. Bonnaroo, God, I love you. Okay, so earlier I talked a little bit about the perks of artist VIP and how it's different from like general admission VIP, but in general, and this is going to sound really bougie and privileged of me, and I completely recognize and understand and agree, but in general, for any major music festival, I likely won't be going if I don't have an artist wristband of some kind. Going general admission, Gen Pop, once you've gone the bougie way, doesn't feel like something that I would desire to do. And I'm going to give you a few of the reasons why. So, and I'll just frame it with Bonnaroo. Maybe we'll just say this is kind of the Bonnaroo centric episode for the most part. Um, with Bonnaroo, as well as a lot of the other major festivals, if you have an artist band, you kind of do have the keys to the kingdom to a certain extent. And like I said before, there's different tiers to that. And so, you could have what some people consider the God Pass that literally lets you get side stage where you're like if you've ever looked up on a major music festival stage and you see all the people that are standing in bleachers like on the stage, but like not obviously like on like in the middle of the stage, but side stage. There's viewing areas there and stuff like uh the God Pass level kind of things. That's a colloquial name. It's not what the festivals call them. Those will get you on the stage to watch a show. Some of the other wristbands will do it too, depending on the show. And of course, every artist has the right to dictate who gets to be on their stage. So some of the headliners or just some of the artists will from time to time just close their side stages down because essentially that means you're performing in the round. Like you've got people standing above you from the side, maybe behind you, depending on the way the stage is set up, and that can be uncomfortable. And you know, in this day and age, maybe not the most safe when you think about it. But so yeah, you can do everything from that to in front. There are different viewing areas. At Bonnaroo, they have several different tiers of where people can stand and how close you can get and all of that, depending on the level of wristband you have. Um, and certain festivals, depending on your wristband, give you access to golf cart transportation. So you don't necessarily have to walk from side A to side B. Like Lollapalooza is one of those. And yeah, just lots of stuff like that. And then there's also like lounges. So in the artist hang VIP area, there are lounges that have um like bathrooms that are like the porta potties that are actual bathrooms. They have showers, they have air conditioning. That's a big one. They've got couches, they've got open bar, they've got a- anything and everything like that that you can think of. It's really great. And so um, having had those experiences of like showing up and having access to an open bar, having access to air conditioning, couches, Wi-Fi, um, special viewing areas, um, it makes it easier to last an entire weekend of a festival because you're not dealing with the fatigue that comes along with going to a music festival where you're like on your feet the whole time. You are in the dust and the dirt and the mud the whole time. Where you're at a porta potty and it's day 3 at 4 p.m. and you hit the porta potties and it smells like day 3 of a festival where everyone is blitzed out of their mind at 4 p.m. Mm, mm-mm, no. So the bougie privileged person in me says, unless it's a festival where it's like really, really on point, like maybe Lollapalooza would be one where I could do that one GA because um it's a little I found that that festival is pretty clean. It's in is it Grant Park? Bryant Park? I can't remember, but it's in Chicago and it's one where they kick everyone out at the end of the night and then you come back. Some of the camping festivals do not do that. Where if you're camping there, I mean, like in theory, you can just hang out in the middle of the Bonnaroo farm all day. Like you can't set up a tent in the middle of Centeroo because I'm sure security would come and say, "Hey, you can't do that." But people like pass out in the middle of there, or some people who are on stuff will stay up all night and and like just go on a bender for 48 hours, 72 hours, or whatever. Won't be me. In fact, what I do with Bonnaroo is that I usually drive in and drive out every day so that I can come home and get a good night's sleep. Um, and be rested and showered and look good. Because one of the things you do need to know is that if you go with kind of like artist privileges, understand that part of it is work because you never know who you're going to run into and there's a really strong chance that there would be like a networking opportunity and so you just want to be like presentable, um uh, understanding that everyone is probably a little bit drunk, maybe they're a little bit high, And it's just kind of unspoken, but everyone talks about the person that was just blackout and looked a hot mess. And you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be tu madre. You don't. Um, so yeah. Uh I think, yeah, having those special perks made all the difference. And again, I'm kind of a lone wolf, and I know someone who likes to say lone wolves don't get fed, and that I understand the sentiment, and that's true to a certain extent, but I also do a lot of things in my life by myself. And um I pride myself on learning ways to do that and remain safe. And festival world actually has taught me that. Um, so some of the do's and don'ts. Um, do go with an open mind and an open heart, especially if you're going by yourself. Or maybe you're going with a group. Either way, being open to the flow of the day is crucial. Don't be 100% too attached to any plan. Um, Knowing that maybe there's a few shows that you definitely want to see. Um, just keep in mind, like, don't be too attached. Go with the flow. The next thing is, speaking of groups and stuff, like, know who you're going with. If you are riding down together and it's understood that everyone's going to remain together, make sure those are people that you want to spend time with. Make sure those are people that, when they're drunk, they're fun to be around. Because I've now, granted, most of these, I actually have only gone down with some people a couple times, and those were fine because they were people that I kind of trust in that way. But um, I have wandered into other groups because I like to be a butterfly and kind of say hi to some groups and then go off and do my own thing and find another group and whatever. But I've wandered into groups that are not, they're full of people that are not fun drunks, or they're not fun when they're doing whatever it is that they decided to do. Um, and it can really kill a vibe and ruin your day, especially if you feel like you have to take care of somebody. Um, do hydrate. Stay hydrated as much as possible. Um, don't lose all control of yourself. Like, please don't. I know it probably looks cute, if you watch TV or you're on Instagram and you see all the cute girls at Coachella or wherever, and they're just like, clearly their pupils are bigger than their eyeballs. It's like a whole thing, and they look cute and fun and whatever. Like, it looks cute on paper, but in real life it's not cute. And again, now if you've lost control, you are taking a really big chance and assuming that somebody else is going to want to take care of you. Like, maybe they will, and hopefully they will, but that's a big if. And I am not willing to live on ifs and buts and candy and nuts. I'm not. Um do, like I said earlier, do make a list of the stuff you do want to see, and be able to go do them yourself. Like, if you're traveling with a group, and maybe um you really want to go see comedy. There was a time where Bonnaroo had a comedy tent and a movie tent. Eventually, I want to say they combined them, but either way, they had a whole comedy festival lineup within the Bonnaroo one. In fact, I saw Hannibal Buress there, and that his show was awesome because he had a DJ on stage with him, and he was like doing sound effects and stuff. So that was dope. Um, I saw a lot of comedians over the years at that festival. I saw Two Dope Queens also. That was really cool. But anyway, um, I really wanted to see that, and none of my friends wanted to see it. And I was totally cool with being like, all right, well, what shows do you care about? So do also get a general consensus of what your group wants to do. And do make a plan to say, okay, so let's meet up at this spot 35, 40 minutes before this thing. Or if you don't want to do that and be that detailed, you could just simply say, are you going to go see the headliner tonight? Okay, what side of the stage do you want to kind of hang at? It's a little bit easier when you're in some of the like VIP viewing areas because it's a little bit less crowded, but still, there's still couple thousand of people in those areas too. So if you just have a general ballpark of where your friends are going to be, then it's a little bit easier to kind of move where and when you want to and just kind of keep track of that. I would also say do bring um, wet wipes, bring them, especially ladies, like you got to wipe yourself up. Clean yourself up. I know it's fun and tempting to be a hippie. I'll be honest, there have been several Bonnaroos where at some point my shoes end up in my backpack and I'm not wearing shoes for days while I'm on the farm. I'm a shoeless person. I will admit that my coworkers knew that, and that's partially why I probably didn't work out there too. But that's another story for another time. But anyway, yeah, I'll walk around the farm shoeless, but I also will have hand sanitizer, wet wipes. I will have I'll usually have some kind of face covering because, like I said, it gets really dusty there, and getting that in your lungs is not necessarily the most fun. I will bring something to carry water in, and I try and keep it full at all times, but I also try and make sure every couple hours I've drunk through a 32-ounce bottle of water. Because, I mean, you sweat it out immediately, especially if it's a summer music festival and it's outdoors and you're walking everywhere. You just got to keep track of that. What else do I bring? Um, if you burn because of sun, like if you get sunburn, definitely make sure you're covering your skin however you need to do that. Bring an extra battery that you can use to charge your phone if you need to. Um, and I would say, okay, so I can't really say bring a weapon because a couple years ago, when everything started switching to like you need to have a clear thing to carry your stuff in or whatever. Of course, they're like, "Why do you have a knife? You can't have a knife here. Don't do that." But just like, I don't know, keep track of the things you have and maybe have something that can double as like self-defense if you need it, especially if you travel by yourself and you want that peace of mind, I guess. I don't know, but and then like a small pen and paper is always helpful because again, like I said earlier, if your phone dies and you can't remember the stuff that you want to do, well, there it is. Now you have it. Um and yeah, what else? Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Um hmm. Yeah, so just like do that. And of course like most festivals have kind of a FAQ section. Definitely go check that out. Um Some of my favorite performances that I've seen at Bonnaroo would include when Earth, Wind, and Fire played one night. I was front row for that, and I could have sworn their perk player, who's one of their sons, by the way, could have sworn we locked eyes a bunch of times. And if you're listening and you remember that moment, this would have been 2016, probably, when you played Bonnaroo, and you were stage left, and I was in the crowd and we kept locking eyes. Like, hit me up. You're cute. You're cute. Um, but that was so amazing, and I was just so thankful that I got to see that band when I did. Um, I mean, it's undeniable. They're undeniable, and so I'm privileged enough to say that I've seen them live. And then um, after their set for their encore, they brought out Kendrick Lamar and Chance the Rapper, and they had a rap battle. They freestyled and had a rap battle while Earth, Wind, and Fire uh, backed them up. It was the funkiest rap battle I had ever seen in my entire life. That was really cool. Another highlight performance was when D'Angelo played. I want to say he played This Tent. And he was like the last show of the evening for that particular night. It was like a Saturday night at Bonnaroo. And I want to say his show started at midnight and he didn't finish playing till like 2:30 in the morning. His encore was like one song and they would end it and he'd be like, "Hit me again." And then like they would just play the song again and then they would just like keep going and he would dance. It was lit. It was fire. I loved every minute of it. And oh my god. D'Angelo, you gave one hell of a performance. Um, when I saw SZA before she was like SZA that we know now, that was fire. That was a tent performance. Um, the Hannibal Buress show was awesome. I loved that. Um, I saw Solange. I loved that because she was one of the headliners that year. And I think she was like one of the first Black female artists to ever be in one of those like top slots on the Bonnaroo lineup. So I, of course, had to go see it. And a lot of the white people around me didn't get it because like they didn't even know that she was Beyonce's little sister. But that was like really the only thing a lot of people would say, like, oh, well, she's Beyonce's little sister. So they're expecting Beyonce 2.0, not realizing that Solange is her own entity and does her own thing. And it's quite different than what Beyonce does and like the type of show that she puts on. So that was also fun to watch, to be honest with you, was like the reactions of the people expecting to get like Crazy in Love 2.0. Nay, nay. Shout out to Bailey. Um, so yeah, like there's a lot more that I could give, but again, I think I'm going to save it for the next time I talk about festivals. But I'll say this. Um, like I said, there are no festivals musically that I've been disappointed in, but my top ones that I enjoy are Bonnaroo. Um, I would like to go to Lollapalooza as a concert goer and not someone working it. I did not play Lollapalooza, but I did go. Oh, speaking of Lollapalooza, I got to see Hiatus Coyote there, and that was a phenomenal performance too. Um, but yeah, I do want to see. I want to go to Lollapalooza again, not working, and to just like enjoy it. Um, and then yeah, Lollapalooza's great. Hangout Festival's great too. And now that I'm healthy, I would love to go again and not pass out. Um, and my dream would be so the major out of the major festivals um, that I can think of right now. I hope that I can someday play Coachella someday in the near future. I would love to play Rolling Loud someday in the near future. Um, I would like to play Lollapalooza. I haven't done it yet. So, yeah, those are the ones that I still need to play. Um, yeah. All right. So now we're at the rant portion, and this was. I'm going to be honest. There, it was a little bit difficult at first to decide what I wanted to rant about. Did I want to rant or did I want to rave? Did I want to rage? What did I want to do? And because, like I said, festivals are high up there on the list of things that make me one of the happiest women on this planet. And, but then I started thinking of moments where, like, I was not happy. I was like upset. And I'll start by kind of prefacing it to say that when you're in a crowd of 50 or 100,000 people, um, you will bump into people. Personal space in some ways is not a thing, but it still is a thing in the sense of like, okay, there's kind of like the customary, hey, I'm trying to get to the front. So you're going to feel someone kind of breeze past you to kind of shimmy their way as far up front as they can. And everybody knows, like, okay, be chill about it. They must really got to get to the front. Ugh, fine. Or you hold the line so that you're like, nope, this is as far as you're going over here. And then it's still customary where people are like, okay, I guess I can't get any farther from here. What you should not do is fix your ashy hands and arms to put them straight out forward and push someone, like full on push them. So I was at 420 Fest and I can't even remember what show I was watching, but all I know is I felt these two big hands proceed to push me forward directly from the small of my back. And when I tell you that roid rage is real, I mean it. And I turned around and I saw this white guy who was probably like 6'2" or 6'3", and I proceeded to say, "If you fucking touch me ever again, I will stab the shit out of you." And then his girlfriend was like, "Oh my God, chill out." And I was like, "No, you fucking chill out. How dare you?" And I, I'm not that person, right? But like, don't put your hands on me. Don't do it. Because when you play me, you play yourself. Now, granted, I didn't have a knife. I wasn't going to stab him. But like, I needed him to know what you're not going to do is push me, full on push me so that you can get further. Like, ahead. No, you're going to say, "Excuse me," and, you know, respect my body and respect my personal space and use festival etiquette to get where you want to go. So, yeah, I will say that going to a lot of these music festivals over the years, it's gotten better for sure, especially with lineups and stuff becoming more inclusive of different kinds of people. I will say that going to a music festival, these major ones, and you're like, you know, for every one black person, there's 5,000 white people. And I'm not exaggerating on that. I promise you I'm not. Um, it again, the ratio got better over time, but when I first started going, it really was like that. Um, and so, like, people just don't respect black and brown bodies as a whole, especially back then. Like now, again, we've had our moment of awakening where people are starting to realize the harm that is done on a regular basis to black and brown bodies in this country and around the world. But back then, it wasn't a topic that was part of the like normal lexicon. So, yeah, stuff like that would happen. And it's not cool. And I just wish and hope that as we become more inclusive and more aware of other people, that we are aware of other people. Just be aware so that I don't have to tell someone I have to stab them. Like, we're not doing it. Not anymore. The other moment where I've literally wanted to like drop kick someone at a festival was when I want to say it was Radiohead. Radiohead was playing Lollapalooza. Also, that was a great show. And I heard so many Gen Zers go, "Why is Radiohead a headliner? Like, when was their last hit? Like, when was the last time they even put music out? They don't like, why?" I wanted to drop kick all of them. How dare you? How dare you slander Tom York? How dare you fix your ashy, crusty lips that are covered in huffed paint to say that Radiohead shouldn't have been a headliner? No. What you should do is sit down and learn something. Because without Radiohead, you wouldn't have any of the bands that you stand for today. You just wouldn't. So, uh, take it back, write me, and apologize. And, you know, and then we'll be okay. All right? And the woo-saw for this week, honestly, it's going to be a little different. It's also rooted in advice. When you are at a music festival, even if you go bougie, there are going to be times where you can't hold your pee. You got to use the bathroom. You got to find the nearest bathroom. And it's a little bit more difficult if you're a woman to just like pee outside. It's really not encouraged for anyone to not use a bathroom of some kind to pee, but I have definitely seen guys just all of a sudden whip their dicks out and start peeing, and that's weird. And I'm like, oh. But in general, for the rest of us, we have to find somewhere to pee. And unfortunately, sometimes that means you do have to use the general admission porta potties. And it is kind of a crapshoot of like, is this one going to be clean or is this one going to be covered in puke and feces? I don't know. So I started doing this thing where I pray before I go into a porta potty, and it has never failed me. And that prayer is simply, Dear Lord, I know I've said a lot of swears today and over my lifetime, and I know that I am not perfect. I know that I've got a lot of work to do to keep me from going to hell, as I currently probably am. But today, in this moment, in this hour, please let the porta potty that I choose be the most clean that it could possibly be. Let it not be covered in puke and feces, and let the smell only be as potent and as pungent as I can handle. For I too know that everybody else has to poop. In fact, everybody else poops. Everybody else pees. But please, help a sister out. Basically, what I'm saying is pray before you go into a porta potty at a music festival because I don't know. I've had a good track record with it. I haven't walked into anything horrible. And I know you're probably saying, well, but Amber, maybe that just means the bathrooms aren't as bad as you think. No, they are. Because oftentimes when I walk out, my colleagues are walking out of their porta potties and they are damn near puking it up. So, yeah, just like, you know, generate the goodwill and good faith and hope for the best. Wowie zowie, this one was long as F. Thank you. You've made it to the end of this inaugural festival, Festive AF episode. I appreciate you for listening. And feel free to write me with some of your festival horror stories um, or some of your festival highlights. I'd love to hear them. Um, eh, the festival season is really cool to me, and hope that it will remain cool. And the older I get and the more money I have, it can only get better from here. So, festival season 2022, I think, is going to be really, really lit. And I'm really excited to see what lineups we're going to have then. And maybe I can do an episode about the lineups. I don't know. This is a whole new world. A whole new world for me. So you know, we're just we're throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. That's what we're doing. And we're doing it together. Okay, bye.